Just hauling it on the electric scooter down Jacksboro Highway. Forgot what to do. Yeah, I remember now. It's kind of weird at the green light. It really happens. Especially in the front. I guess you just do that. I don't know. I guess, you know, if you're at the green light, you just pull to the side that way. Clear a space for them. That's what everyone else did, so. Anyway. (9:15), 1 minute, 0.5 mile. Going to a little place called the Rabbit Hole. Probably say my all-time favorite road movie is Pee-wee's Big Adventure, with Paul Reubens and Diane Salinger playing Simone, who's a big star now because of that. It's funny because everyone knows who she is now. She was my acting coach, but we didn't talk a whole lot about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. She'd talk about like classics like Chekhov and what's that other one? The one that did Public Enemy, and what was the other thing that he did? He did Ibsen. Yeah, he did Dollhouse and things like that. I did a scene from Ghost for her in Dollhouse, and I like cried in it. She said, look at you, Cole, you're crying. And I said, I know. Because I got into it. We were right by Melrose Place at a plastic surgeon office. It was after hours. They were using it as a rehearsal space. Then I went me 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 me. No, I didn't really do that. But I told her, I said, Diane, just like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where Simone wanted to go to Paris. She said, I want to go to Paris, Pee-wee. I said, Diane, I want to go to New York and study at the Actor Studio. She said, don't go, Cole. Don't go. They'll starve you. I said, I know. I gotta go. And then she said, you know, you remind me of James Dean. I said, thanks. Thanks so much, Diane. She said, no problem. Now, would you go over there behind where the yard is? And I need you to scrub this little box thing that we have for the acting class. This little sandpaper. Take the sandpaper and just scrub it for a long time. Scrub the paint off of it. One of the boxes for the. I said, sure, no problem. And then I ate plums. She had plums on the side. She lived with Tom Noble. Yeah, she lived with Tom Noble at the time. He had an Oscar for Witness. Harrison Ford. You know, he was he won for editing. So she was living with an editor at the time. There was an Oscar on the mantle. But she's a great coach. She's a great acting coach. By far, my best acting coach. She had all these secret kind of things that she would teach about acting and emotional recall and imagination and things like that. Sense memory and everything, you know, she studied with Stella Adler. So she had, you know, Stella taught her. Oh yeah, so she went to Universe, and she spoke to people about Paul Reubens, because Paul Reubens passed away, and she told the audience to close their eyes for 10 seconds and think of Paul and, you know, Pee-wee. and I guess everybody did. They're just big fans. Listen, that movie's not going to go away, you know. When you do something like that, you're in it for good, you know. But I like the scene between Paul Reubens and Diane where, you know, I forgot my wallet. That one, it's terrifying, but it is, that's an important thing to have. But because he left it by the palm reader, there's a palm reader down there. You know, whenever she was telling him, and it's in the basement of the Alamo. But, yeah, I like that scene. I think it's a good scene where, you know, they're in the kitchen, and he's trying to figure out, you know, how to get out of, you know, the bill. She's like, oh, you can just do the dishes, you know, or something. I don't remember. But anyway, I was a big fan of Pee-wee, but I didn't really know that she had done it until that movie. I think she did mention, and then I realized she was Simone till later, you know, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. She said Stella taught her to, when you approach comedy, and this is, I totally agree with this 100%, you approach it just like a child would approach comedy. Or, well, I guess you're still an adult, but you're approaching the scene like a child, you know, because she mentioned Midsummer Night's Dream. She had done Midsummer Night's Dream, and they thought of Demetrius and Lysandra and stuff like that as like children running through the forest, not knowing, which is what we all are, really, you know. But Pee-wee really took it to an extreme. You know, like this little kind of brat kid. Well, Francis is really the brat. Pee-wee's, there's still sincerity for his love for his bike. But the fact that he loves his bike so much and is sincere, you know, he means it. It's a big love that he has for his bike. He cares for it. You know, he polishes it. Anyway, I'm dropping this. I guess I take my job kind of serious. You know, it's like, well, what's your vlog about? And Francis came up. What's your vlog about, Cole? I'm like, well, you know, it's about me driving around, dropping off pizza, talking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yeah. Well, my dad says anything's, what does he say? Anything, everything has a price. I wouldn't sell my show for all the money in the world. Actually, I probably would sell it. If anyone has a price for it, we could talk, we can negotiate pricing. All right, I gotta find a way to get in there. Remember this one. I think I'm just gonna make a phone call. That was one of their old school delivery drivers right there. One I just dropped off to. Pretty nice guy. He's like, oh, I know, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, that kind of thing. Tell you one thing, all the other delivery drivers, well, is this thing gonna open? Okay, good. Look, I know, like, they're probably, like, super fast and everything, but I'm the one that's behind making them internationally famous. People in France will be watching the show. I don't know. It's hard to say. You never really know. You know, you make a YouTube show, you're like, wow, 20 views, what to do? First of all, here's the thing about the 20 views. Should have been doing it just for views, okay? The views will come eventually. I know that for sure. Look at this mural right here. I mean, I got one that has 172,000 views, so that's good enough to know something works. I'm a man. Let me go around this way. And this says, love life. Good lessons. Now, I don't know. If I were to say about, here's this guitar right there. If I say, you know, what I remember about Paul Reubens, it's not the whole movie theater thing where they pulled him out of a movie theater. I mean, after all, he was just showing his humanity, which is, you know, it's an important little thing to talk about. The big M word, you know, M, sort of the ma, stuff, you know, but that happened. We don't know. Nobody was there. That was just what was in the media, but that's not what I remember, but that's something I do think about. I would probably say the whole movie, you know, the Pee-wee's Big Adventure, just starting off with the bike. But see, we saw him when we were kids, you know, so what we were watching, we didn't know what to think about it. we just knew, you know, it was almost like a live cartoon, you know. The whole thing was, you know, it was very cartoonish, but it was funny, and you watched every single segment with wide eyes, and it was hypnotic, as opposed to the other movies. I think the movies that were out around that time were nothing in comparison. You know, I don't want to name a bunch of movies other than Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but I remember talking about it all the way to college. And so I saw it as a kid, and then I still talked about it, and I'm, you know, in college talking about it, and I'm out of college now, because I remember I had this German tutor named Alona, and I told her, you know, the story of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. She's like, what is Pee-wee? I said, oh, you don't know about Pee-wee's Big Adventure? You know, because I was trying to tell her about America, about, you know, the United States and stuff at the time. And it has a lot of like English stuff in there, because she was an English major. She was like, tell me, Cole, tell me about Pee-wee. I said, well, you know, and this is before I met Diane, and before I even left to Hollywood. And she would come see my theater shows. She would come see me in Midsummer Night's Dream, because I played Demetrius, and she was a big fan. She's like, oh, come and go see Cole and Shakespeare, you know. And she was teaching me, you know, Sie sprechen Deutsch nicht so gut, you know. She was a Vessi, you know. There was Alces and Vessis, so the Vessis were more liberated. But she also would she studied martial arts. And one time I'd come over to, you know, because I listen, I had to really work hard at German. And I knocked on her door. She was in there like practicing martial arts and eating Oreo cookies and drinking milk. But I was going to go to Germany to see her, and she, you know, she was a big fan and everything. So my goal was to go off to Hollywood and become a star, you know, and then everything would be worked out from there. All my, you know, financials would be taken care of. Although I know those mansions break down and stuff and people lose money, but I don't know if that makes any sense. But I mean, I know that they have a hard life. You know, I know it's not easy. But it didn't exactly work out that way. Thank you, Bradley Cooper. But it didn't exactly work out that way. But I was chosen to go to New York and study at the Actor Studio Drama School. So I got out that way because, man, LA, you know, it's kind of rough, you know, bumper to bumper traffic. You're crying because you didn't get the audition. You don't know what you're going to do. You know, you're starving. Well, you probably don't starve in LA as much as you do in New York. But my answer was, well, just go to New York, you know. I remember at the time when I left, Jeremiah was on my plate. It was a thing that was on Showtime that Luke Perry ended up getting. And I had talked to some of the agents and stuff, and I'd sat down and did an audition read and everything. So I was being considered, you know, and that's a big freaking deal. I didn't realize, I'm 51 years old, and I didn't realize how big of a deal that actually is, just to be considered, you know, for different kind of stuff. And I'd been on set with, you know, Dustin Hoffman, Jake Gyllenhaal, and The Moonlight Mile, and I had worked shoulder to shoulder with Jim Carrey on Majestic, even though, you know, I was just a featured extra, if you even want to say that. I mean, Frank Darabont actually spoke to me, you know, that was the director, you know, because we were doing this whole opening thing where I was playing a theater patron. So I was getting stuff, you know, my dream was coming true. And I remember whenever I had landed there, it was probably maybe one of the best days of my life. When I had landed and gone to Long Beach, and like I'd already seen the ocean, and I remember I was a big jogger at the time, so I had already got my place. You got this little, you know, apartment at Paradise Gardens, and I remember I went on this jog. I was so anal retentive, I'd park the car sometimes and like jog around. I'd parked the car like at this like rest stop or something and went on this little jog. This is before I got involved with 24-hour fitness and stuff like that. And I was thinking, wow, I'm actually here in California jogging around attempting to be a freaking movie star. And I think at that moment I had realized that I think I had made it, you know, even though, you know, now I'm just holding this. I think I had gone far enough at that moment, but I still had to go further. You know, I had to meet Diane. I had to go on these auditions. I had to fly to New York City. I had to meet James Lipton from inside the Actor Studio. And, you know, I was only a year away, and Bradley Cooper had already, graduated and got Wet Hot Summer and flew off to Hawaii or something. Flew off somewhere. I don't know where they shot that, but, you know, he was already their chosen one. You know, I guess I didn't know it. So I was like, well, what's going to happen to me? You know? Anyway, that's why I have the show.